So welcome everyone. My name is Oscar Tomico and I work at ELISAVA and Eindhoven University of Technology. So at ELISAVA, I'm the head of the design engineering department, and there we are exploring how to use science and technology in a creative manner to have an impact in the industry, in society, and the world in general. At Eindhoven University of Technology, I work in the Department of Industrial Design, and where I'm assistant professor, and I'm working together at the research group called Future Everyday, where we explore the possibilities of bringing emerging technologies in everyday life. My specialty in that case, it's wearables, textiles, and all what it means to bring technology on or close to the body. I'm also, I also developed lately a master program called Design for Emerging Futures that we do together with the Fab Lab Barcelona, where actually it's my think tank to explore the future of education, but also the future possibilities that designers can have. Today, I'm going to be talking more about the work I'm doing in relation to wearables or soft wearables. And I'm going to do that through a series of projects. And by means of these projects, I'm going to actually reflect on specific topics that I think are important to know. So let me just start with the first one. So the first project I'm going to show you was a project that we worked with multiple companies where we were exploring what it means to design this kind of smart textiles and how we can make them sustainable. So in this project, we were exploring this new material, this kind of hybrid material called smart textiles, which somehow combines a digital part with a physical part. In a way, what is important to understand is that when you create a new material, you need to explore a new design language, a new series of forms, interactions, possibilities. And what I'm going to show you here, it's an example of one of the projects we did of applying augmented reality to textiles. This is like a game for kids where they can actually use their bed sheet, bed covers, towels as a way to interact with them and get some extra information. It was a way of making actually textiles more meaningful and therefore maybe make them last longer. So the interesting thing about this project was that we explored a different way of interacting with digital information. So the interesting thing when you use augmented reality on textiles is that textiles move, textiles are flexible, textiles are soft. They're not a hard screen. And by moving the textile, what you do is you also move the digital counterpart because it's mapped to a specific place on the textile. So we start exploring animations on the textile, where actually by moving the textile, by hiding a specific thing or showing it, we could make animals, birds, and other things move, fly, or disappear. Another point that is important, and that was one of the second projects that we are working on, it's that when we work with smart textiles, when we work with kind of technology understood, for example, like electronics, we need to start challenging the meaning of functionality. because actually when we are wearing things, all the experiences that we are having merge together. This is what it's called, this multi-stability of the function or the garment itself. So on one side, I need to look nice with my garments. On the other side, it needs to keep me warm or protect me from the rain. So I think it's really important to understand that what we are wearing accomplishes multiple functions at the same time. And in a way, like looking at technology from a fashion perspective, it could be a really interesting thing. So what I'm going to show you here, it's a project about developing running gear done by Pauline van Dongen, one of the designers that I work with. And in the same way that the project before was done by Christy Kusk, as you saw in the credits, where she explores the possibilities of using light in a fashionable manner. Let's look at the video.
Ah, yeah, I have a name. I wanted to tell you yesterday, but I forgot. It's a phototrope. And it has a subtitle. We call it like phototrope and then a comma or whatsoever or nothing. An illuminated running shirt. I think the most challenging thing is to work with light, or to integrate light in a more subtle and emotional way, instead of creating something that's show off, flashy. So that's why we used the foils. But obviously working with these type of foils is also something that creates more challenges in terms of construction and working with something that's not very textile-like. Yeah, so basically it should be accessible for people that obviously are already running. Light is not just about creating visibility and safety, but it is also something to enhance like interaction between people and their surroundings, and make them improve their performance through it.
So I think that this is a really nice example in a way where function, aesthetics merge in impossible ways. So the idea of using light when you're running, it's really interesting because you are running to be seen, to protect yourself from being crushed by a car, but to be seen by others, to show what you are doing and to show that you are part of a group of runners. So I think that here, being part of a group, having a specific identity, and at the same time performing a sport and protect yourself from the environment are merged in a really interesting way. And the last product, and the third product that I want to show, it's a project that relates more to the fabrication of it. So we've been talking about that when you design something on the body or a wearable, you need to explore it as a new material and explore a new form, a new way of interacting with it, as we've seen with the first product. With the second one, we've seen that it's important to consider all kinds of information requirements that go from static to functional to personal, all needs to be mixed because we are all experiencing things that we are wearing at the same time. But it's really important also to think about the production of things. So this kind of garments or these personalized garments, we can apply technology not in the object itself, but in the production process. So what about if we create garments that are personalized by means of using digital fabrication, generative design, or by involving users in its programming, or why not all the maker communities? So I'm going to show you a project that we did also with Pauline, with Troy, and some other people for the Minister of Culture in the Netherlands, where we design a full garment using digital fabrication and generative design techniques.
We started off with 3D body scanning, and we did a 3D body scan not only of the whole body of the minister, but also of her feet. We then scanned her feet in a walking position and in a resting position, and from there we actually had to go back and do a second scan of the bottom of her feet in order to figure out exactly where her foot goes when she walks, which is known as the progression line. And we also took a look at the size of her feet so we could create a shoe that's perfectly molded to her foot.
How does that feel?
Stand up and put your weight down. Yeah, that's the magic happens.
Nice feeling. Yeah, it's quite soft, huh?
This is what we talk about when we talk about programming materials. What we can do is we can change the internal structures of, say, these two insoles. We can do things like lines and squares, but it's changing these around and making these ever so slightly different that creates something that works in a really interesting manner. We program these materials to be in specific places.
We wanted to explore creating a shoe that has both strength, so it supports your body and we can create a heel with it. But at the same time, we wanted to create some surfaces that would be a little bit dynamic, that would maybe change according to the rhythm of your walking, which is why we started out with creating all these kind of lines. Yeah, so you can imagine if this would be a square piece of fabric, and I would hold it above here and I would kind of fold it around. And the square piece, of course, would never fit because this is not a square shape. But so we have the square piece of fabric interact with the shape of your foot.
This is the line, or not?
No. This is one line
it's
that
this
we.
Line. It's this line.
Yeah, exactly.
You see
So
how
that's
it
that progression
starts.
line.
Yeah.
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 And we're definitely starting to get an idea of what the final shoe is going to look like. Unfortunately, the colored area that was supposed to be white on the inside, not quite what we wanted it to be yet, but this is part of the process. You know, we had some experiments go wrong.
Do you think it's, I can stand on it?
It's not as strong as I wanted it to be.
No.
That's why we're reprinting the new one right now.
Okay.
The next one will be stronger. We thought that this shoe was going to be the perfect shoe to do the new printing style, which is printing it laying down. It turns out that this is not the best idea for that shoe, but we could only realize that through experimentation.
Therefore, you also learn by this experience.
Oh yeah, this has been a great big learning experience. This has taken every trick that I know, and I've invented a few new ones.
Okay, so with this video, what I want to show you is like these possibilities of combining digital and physical, not just in the use of the product, but in the design process. So this idea of digital craftsmanship, this idea of programming materials, programming form, and programming behavior. It's really interesting to look at how even fashion, the process of designing accessories, could be transformed profoundly with these techniques. And in a way, what I want to show you now, it's some of my learnings from this process. And I know it's taking quite some time, so I try to shorten up this part. If not, we're going to be super late. So I'm going to skip some of the videos that I had, if you don't mind, so that we can shorten it to the time that we have. So I'm going to briefly explain you these different points. And for me, these are the takeaways that I would like to propose you to design products that are on or close to the body. So let's go one by one, if you're okay with it. So the first of all is like when you design this kind of embodied interaction, when you design these things that you wear all the time, the differences between you and the garment disappear. So we need to stop designing things that you need to understand to use. We need to stop designing representations, symbols, and we need to start designing expressions, ways of moving, ways of being, ways of showing who we are. So in a way, we need to create the dynamic material properties that can be actionable. In this case, in this video, I'm just going to show it really quickly while we use specific metal alloys in order to kind of explore creating this kind of intimate relationship. I think it's also important to understand that if you want to design for this kind of intimate interactions with technology, the only way to do that is by trying it yourself, by involving yourself in the design process. So you need to become a designer, a wearer, a user, a client in one person, and you need to start exploring the richness of these interactions and expand the possibilities of ideating from just pen and paper to full body experiences. And that's actually what we are doing these days in the workshop, this kind of designing from a first person perspective. So it's really interesting. Let's have a quick look and I'll stop it. But to try things by yourself, use yourself as the designer, but also as the user, and quickly try and prototype things. When you try things and prototype things on your own body, you can iterate really quickly. So you can go from a really symbolic project like this one that looks like almost like something delicious, and you can transform it into something way more meaningful for the project by trying things as much as possible. And something that was like just a piece of fabric tied on the body, little by little, gets shape and transforms in something completely different. Okay, I'm just stopping it here. So the interesting thing here was this kind of continuously trying and exploring things in context as a way to let form emerge from this process into something that was completely new for them. And finally, I think it's really important to understand that in order to these kind of innovations happen, it's really important to involve a lot of different people. And if we are trying to design from a first person perspective, if we try to design by involving ourselves in the process, when we are collaborating with others, we need to follow a similar approach. So for example, in the projects that I've been working, we look at them as more explorative things. We look at finding relations and connections between each other rather than telling people what to do. So here what we have is one of the sessions where we put on the table all the possibilities, all the ideas, all the projects that we were working to see if we could combine them in a meaningful way. So I'm going to skip this video. So we have time. And finally, if we are doing these rich and personal and subjective kind of projects, the main question is how do we communicate it? So this was an exhibition that I set up in the Textile Museum in Tilburg, where we tried to communicate the value of the projects at different levels with multiple channels and for multiple expertises. So for example, that the interesting thing in this exhibition is that we combine like adding augmented reality on the garments. If you look at the frame here, if you would put your phone on top, it will show a video, but also we created like a prototype that you could use at the same time. So you could touch it, you could see it. And here you see how it works with the augmented reality app. And here you see actually that how we actually programmed the prototype to make it work while you were there. So you had to press the button and then you could actually feel or interact with what actually was doing. So in a way, this is what I wanted to show you. So this is a series of projects where we explore the possibilities of smart textiles, and then a series of recommendations in terms of like, when we design this kind of soft wearables, we need to have an intimate interaction with them. And it's important to take it really personally in the way we interact. It's completely different than designing a product. In order to design this, we need to take a first-person perspective. We need to involve ourselves in the process. And also the way of collaborating and communicating should show the richness of possibilities, the richness of information that it generated, and should be communicated for all the senses and also for the different expertises that form this kind of interdisciplinary field. So this is what I want to say. Thank you very much.